Pierre Poilievre is in Quebec today, making a big announcement for Canadian seniors, saying that he will lessen the tax burden on Canadian seniors who continue to work and also make a little bit of tweaks to the RRSP situation for some seniors to give them more flexibility on that. Of course, Quebec is key to whoever wins this election. It's got 78 seats, and the Liberals and the Conservatives are vying for a number of them. Andrea Sarkic is my guest, a political commentator, conservative strategist at Compass Rose Group. Good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
All right, so where do you think things stand on day 4 here? We're following Pierre Poilievre in Quebec. I know you were listening to some of that announcement here, using it to announce different things for Canadian seniors, but also, pivot and go on the attack over Mark Carney and his finances, the blind trust, and on it goes. Your take?
It's no doubt that anyone who is running in this election who's serious needs Quebec. Elections are won through Quebec, to your point. I think to date, folks have argued that Mr. Carney may be the weakest French speaker and a leader in quite some time. And in Quebec, everyone knows you have to be careful on pipeline politics. So I think there's a few challenges for both Mr. Poilievre and Mr. Carney when it does come to Quebec. I think on the heels of the TVA debate debacle, so to speak, it's no surprise that you have Pierre full-chested speaking in Quebec in a room full of folks with what is strong French. And it's frankly difficult to believe that we are only day 4 in this campaign, Todd, to your point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, the Conservative Party, and Andrea, you'll know this, going back many years, back to the Stephen Harper days, trying to make inroads in Quebec. And you just see it because, when they make announcements, regardless of where they are in Canada, they will, Stephen Harper did this, Pierre Poilievre does this, they start in French, then they go into English. The party has, 9, 10 seats right now out of 78. I wonder whether you think they can build on that, whether there's a connection or a disconnection with Quebec voters for the Conservatives.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's always a hope that you can build on it. To look at some of the previous numbers we've seen in the polling, it's obviously going to be key for the Conservatives to pick up key regions, Quebec absolutely being one of them. We've also seen Pierre spend some time in the GTA. There's talk of Atlantic Canada. And to your point on who can make inroads in Quebec, this election so far, only in week 1, really is framing up to be a bit of a battle on narrative. And, can you define yourself or will you be defined? And I think in Quebec, that will be a hot question for both leaders.
I wonder whether you think there is a perception for some Quebec voters, perhaps, that the Conservatives are often more focused on Western Canadian interests.
I'll say this, pipelines have entered the election debate. I had to double take at my calendar, Todd, to see what year we were in or what election cycle we were in. So I do think that's both an opportunity and a challenge. I mentioned that previously, looking at the pipeline politics of Quebec. Overall, there'll be a natural narrative where Western Canada typically is more conservative leaning, sure. But we've had Mr. Carney remind us numerous times now, not only of his hockey days, but his history in Edmonton. And so there's a bit of that Western debate and framing that we're seeing from the Liberals as well.
Yeah, the other thing I'm curious about is you're watching the NDP in free fall here, and it starts to become, and again, we want to be very careful. This is very early in the race. We're only 4 days into this. We're a month away from the actual vote, but a collapse of the NDP vote. And we're showing this poll, Andrea, and I want you to comment on it if you can, from Leger, showing the NDP at 6%, the Liberals at 44%, Conservatives at 38%. There's also the Angus Reid poll, again, the Liberals at 46%, Conservatives at 38%, NDP at 7%. What do you think is going on with these? And they are just snapshots of some voters. We want to be very careful, but what do you make of that?
It is only day 4. I will always remind folks that it is early in the campaign. I think when it comes to the progressive vote in the NDP, when we saw Mr. Carney, he was sworn in for about a week and had cabinet and was prime minister, I thought it was a choice not to put Karina Gould in cabinet, frankly. That would have been an easy sort of win on the progressive side. With that said, the NDP are their own worst enemy to some extent right now. It is early days. I think more interestingly, you have a lot of folks who are keen to point to the poll difference where we saw the Conservatives and where we're seeing them now. I will remind folks that Mr. Poilievre has an excellent ground game. He is someone who is not new to his riding, his region. He has been campaigning for 20 years. I'll even go as far to say that he's often playing chess when other folks are playing checkers or when the occasion calls for checkers. So at this point, anyone who's been on a campaign knows it only gets harder. Mr. Carney is, in theory, untested, and it is early days on the job for him. And we'll see what happens as the days go on. Hour by hour, I feel like things can change at this point.
Yeah, so you're not concerned about some of those polls so early in the game?
I think everyone needs to take note. You know, anyone who's been on a campaign, you pay attention, you take a look, you understand strategy. You whether you are filling a room of 2,500 people or 200, you want to gauge how things are going on each campaign stop. I think it's a little early to be concerned, at least for perhaps the Conservatives. I do think the Bloc and NDP need to look for opportunities. But I will also remind folks, you should never measure the drapes, so to speak, until Canadians do have their say at the polls.
Yeah. Well said. Andrea Sarkic joining us, political commentator, conservative strategist at Compass Rose Group. She's in Ottawa today. Hey, great to see you. Thanks for taking the time for us here on CTV News Channel. I look forward to talking to you in the weeks ahead, Andrea.
Great. Thanks for having me, Todd.